Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're in Masechtas Ksubas daf Ayin Aleph. We're going to begin on the top line on Ayin Aleph Amud Aleph. So this is going back on our new Mishnah, new parak. A person made a neder against his wife that she cannot get any hana. So he said for 30 days you appoint a shliach to provide the necessary sustenance, and then afterwards Yotzitin Ksuba. Now Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. If it's Yisrael, you have 1 month, and then Ushnaim Yotzitin Ksuba. In the second month, she leaves. A Kohen who cannot get remarried because he can't marry a Garusha, if he divorces her, he can't just remarry her. So therefore, we give him more time. Shnaim Yikayim Ushloish Yotzitin Ksuba. So the question that the Gemara here asks is Yehuda Oimer Yisrael Chaydish Echad V'Chulu. Hainu Tanakamo Chara. It doesn't seem like he's really arguing. So Omer Bai Kohenes Aslashminan. It doesn't mean that he's actually arguing. He's just adding on the din when it comes to a Kohen, then we add extra time. Rava Omer Chaydish Molei V'Chaydish Chaser Ikbenayu. The difference is it 30 days or is it a Chaser, a Chaydish Chaser, that we would actually go for a shorter month, which would be 29 days. Omer Rav Lo Shanu. The only time we even give any amount of time is El b'mafarish, the fact that he specified a certain amount of time. Avol b'stam yetzu alter. If he just made a neder without any time limit, then she leaves immediately. V'ting suba Shmuel Emer fil b'stam lo yetzu shema yimsa pesach l'nidrei. According to Shmuel, he says that even if he doesn't make a time, he doesn't specify a time limit, nonetheless, the same din applies. The question is, which this is actually verbatim the Gemara which we saw not too long ago. Did not. A person makes a neder that he's not going to have tashma shemitah with his wife. So Beishami Ormim Shtei Shabbos and Hillel Ormim Shabbos Achas. So you have the Machlokas Beisham Beis Hillel, whether it's 1 or 2 weeks. Do we compare it to a nida? Do we compare it to Yoledes, Nekeva? It's only again if it was explicit. It sounds exactly the same. So what's the difference between our Mishnah and this case of Tashma Shemitah? So Sricha. If you only have that one case, maybe only here does Rav say the din that he's mechalik between Mefarish and Stam. Because we're dealing with Tashma Shemitah, you can't have a shliach have Tashma Shemitah with her. So therefore, maybe that's why he's strict. That because you can just have a farnes, so maybe it doesn't make any difference even if you didn't give a time limit. Maybe the reason why he's lenient is because again you can have a shliach. So it said, if a person made a neder, I do not want you to taste any fruits, so from a certain type of fruits. So again, she'll leave. L'chara means will alter immediately. So bishlam arav. So it says immediately. So when does she ever leave immediately? So bishlam arav kan b'stam kan b'mafarish. He made a distinction. If he was explicit, so then you get the 30 days. But the part of the Mishnah that says that she's yotzel alter is probably because he said you're not allowed to eat fruits and he didn't specify a time limit. So according to Shmuel, how does he understand this case of the fruit? Why would she ever have to leave right away? Even if he doesn't give a time limit, nonetheless, the din should still be the same. So my answer is, it's in a situation that she's the one that made the neder, but he verified it. So since she made the neder, she clearly doesn't want to be in the relationship anymore. And therefore, V'ksabar Rameir, hu noisin etzba ben shineha. According to Rameir, he holds, says Rashi, that Stam Astis and Rameir that this is Stam Mishnah, is probably like Rameir. He holds that he was the one that was noisin etzba ben shineha. He's the one that literally put the finger between his teeth, or he put his foot in his mouth. The fact that he verified this neder, so therefore he has to give her ksuba. So the Gemara says, is that true? Does he actually hold that he's at fault for being Mekayim the neder? I'll show you that we don't blame the guy. Vasanya, Ha'isha shenadra benazir let's say you have a woman who makes a neder regarding a Nazirus. The Shama Bala and her husband overhears this. Vohefer. He doesn't annul it, which he was able to. So the question, who do we blame, if you will? So Rabbi Huda Imrim, he nasna etzma ben sheneha. Here it does, even though he wasn't made for it, we still say that it was her fault, because she's the one that initiated this neder. Lafikach im ratza habal hafer yafer. If the husband wants to annul from the beginning, he could. Dim Omer, but if he says isha nadranis teitze shelo biksuva, but if he says, you know what, I don't like this having a wife that she makes all this nedarim, so then she can leave. She will have him leave. She'll leave without a ksuba. So we see in our case, Rameir holds that it must be that it's like his fault, assuming the Stam Mishnah is like Rameir, which it typically is. So therefore, it's hard to understand, because Rameir holds, really, we blame her, and therefore she's going to lose her ksuba. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Eliezer, Emrim, who knows saying, of course, he could annul it. But if he says, I don't want to be in such a relationship, you have to be ksuba. So the question is, how do we understand this? The answer is Epoch, Rameir, Rabbi Yehuda. Oimrim, it's actually Rameir and Rabbi Yehuda that say, who knows saying, that he does give. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Eliezer, Oimrim, he nasna, that she gives. So, in other words, all you do is just change over the language so that in this way it'll fit. The Savar Rabbi Yossi he nasna. So one second, you're telling me that she's, according to Rabbi Yossi, it's her fault, because now we're saying, oh, Rameir holds it's his fault, and if it's his fault, that's why Rameir says who noisein. So since he's the one that put the etzba bin shina, so he's at fault, and that's how we understand our Mishnah. Why, therefore, she gets her ksuba. And over here, it's just turned around. That means that Rav Yossi holds that she's the one at fault, but not Rav Yossi Omer ba'aniyos. When it comes to someone who's poor, shlo nasan kitzba, without a set amount. Says Rashi, yoitzev eating ksuba, that if when it comes to poverty and a person who's poor and there's no set amount, so she goes out with a ksuba. Alma hu noisin. It shows obviously that it's his fault. Daha bin nadrahi. She made the neder. Became who? That's what we're establishing the statement, and the fact that he was mekayim it, therefore it's his fault. So how can you tell me you can't flip around Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi is also not like that. So Amy, you have to say like this: Rameir of Rabbi Yossi omrim hu noisin, Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eliezer omrim hi nasna. So we actually have to change the names. So Rameir and Rabbi Yossi, we've already established, says that it was his doing, it's his fault, and therefore that's the reason why those both opinions hold like that. Rabbi Yehuda hi nasna. Is it true that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's her fault? But not Rabbi Yehuda Omer be Yisrael Yom Echad Yikayim. He says that in one day, if you're Yisrael, you can remain in a relationship. Says Rashi, Gabi Shalo Titoim, not eating these certain fruits. V'kaim Rabbi Yehuda Yom Echad Yikayim Yes Mekan Yotzav Yiting Ksuba. He says explicitly that you have to give a ksuba. So it's not her fault either. So Ema Reb Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, V'Rav Yossi Omrim Hu Noisin. There's only way you can do it, because we already established all three of them are saying that it's his fault, and therefore he has to give a ksuba. Rabbi Eliezer Omrim Hi Nasna. Now the Imtim Saloimer Zugi Katani. If you really want to say, well, 1 second, I know it was 2 against 2, it wasn't 3 against 1. So Ema Reb Meir, Rabbi Eliezer Omrim Hi Nasna, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Omrim Hu Noisin. And then we'll just do is we'll say that this Stam Mishnah is not like the sheet of Rameir, and therefore that's why it's not a problem. Is it true that Rabbi Yossi holds that when it comes to someone who is poor, if they're not given a set amount, that she leaves? There's no set time limit, no set amount that she leaves, but she does get a ksuba. Alma bal matzi mefer. So according to that, we see since he could have been mefer and he didn't, so he pays the ksuba. Reminhu el devarim shahal bal mefer. These are the examples of where a husband is allowed to annul. Devarim shesh behen inoi nefesh. Things in which there is some type of uncomfortable feeling or pain. Im erchatz, im lo erchatz, regarding bathing or not bathing. So if there's an isser of hanas rechitza, she says hanas rechitza lai, or shavua shel erchotz. And furthermore, if let's say she would say im eskashe im lo eskashe, if I don't adorn myself, so with various besamim, with different spices and the like. So these are things which are inoi nefesh. So Rabbi Yosef, ein elu nidri inoi nefesh. According to him, he says these are not inoi nefesh. Says Rashi, the ein habal mefer. And since rachitza in adorning oneself, kishut, to which this is question 5, but elu devarim pligi tanai im hein nidri inoi nefesh. So these are the two, bathing as well as kashet. So he says it's not inoi nefesh. Ve'el he nidri inoi nefesh. He says, but these are shlo oichel baser, shlo eshte yayin. Person said, I'm not going to eat meat, I'm not going to drink wine. Shlo es kashet. As we continue to ayin alpha midbeis, bevegdit sivoinim. If I don't wear these colored clothing, Rashi says, Gnayu b'zoyinhu la u'mizgano love. So we clearly see that there's only certain things he's allowed to be mefer. So what does this mean? It sounds like he's allowed to be mefer her nidarim, but it sounds like the only things you can be mefer are things which are inay nefesh. So Gemara says, Hachaba ma'askina, and our Mishnah is b'devarim shebein levinah. These are matters which pertain between the man and the woman. It says Rashi, Sam hamashir es haseir, such as the removal of hairs, in which in those days those things were done even for safety reasons, but certainly for beautification, so that he was allowed to be mefer. Now, that there's one opinion that says it's true that you could annul matters which are between you and your wife. Why is he not allowed to make this annulment? Because we don't find Shu'al, a fox, Shemes ba'afar pir, that he dies in the dust of his hole. In other words, it won't be dangerous for the husband, since he's used to her, just like a fox is used to being in the dust of his hole. So basically, it's just saying that there's really not a danger of removing these pubic hairs, and therefore, because of that, it's not an issue for the man, and therefore that's not considered to be devarim shevein levinah. So again, so what do you do if you hold it's not devarim shevein levinah? So then, how do we understand he's not able to make for those nedarim? El hakam askin going ditalinhu likishuteha b'tashim shemita, that we're talking about. As Rashi says, Mishum Hachi Matzi Mefer. So the Dilma Miskashetes, maybe she'll adorn herself. Umitzra Hanas Tashmisholeha, that she's going to be Aser B'Tashmish Shemita because of this. The Amr Yi Aser Hanas Tashmishcha Alai Imis Kashet. She says, I'll be Aser with having Tashmish Shemita with you if I adorn myself. Kedem Rav Kahana, Hanas Tashmishi Alecha. If a person says the Hana of Tashmish is forbidden to you, Kaifa, we force Umishamashtai, and we say that they are in fact supposed to have Tashmish. Says Rashi, Sheni Yechoyel Aser Atzmolav, because she's not allowed to Aser herself. Of Yechoyel Aser Leha Shetehi Muderes Veloihu, Kagain Hanas Tashmisha Aleha, that Sarachu Hafer Shoyachileno Dabar Aserwa. Okay. Hanas Tashmishech Olai, if she says the Hana of Tashmish is on me, Yafer. Because a person is not allowed to literally eat something which is forbidden to him. So velo tiskashi velo tiaser. So understand, just don't have her adorn, and then she won't be aser. Same king korila minuvelas. She'll be called something which is repulsive. So she does need this adornment, and therefore, because she's going to need the adornment, she's going to aser herself a tashmish shemita. So therefore, it's not really a choice. And therefore, that's where he's able to be make a hafara. But tiskashe te aser. So one sense, so let her adorn herself and let her become aser. Ilubei shamish te shabbos is hil shabbos achas. There is this window. Why do we say that she's yotzil altar? She leaves immediately. L'chayra, you should have a week or two. So hani milehecha de adra ihu. That's only when he's the one that made the neder. The saber mirtach rasach, because she'll think. Says Rashi, Hani Mil Sheshul Zman, they give her a week or two. Shemi Yimsa Pesach Nidra Hecha de Adra Ihu. So maybe he's just angry. Now he feels better. Since she's the one that made the neder against him, the Shasik law, and they're quiet. Savar Ishtik Misnahu Desanili. It must be that he really hates me. So if he made the neder, so then that's why you're given a week or two, because maybe he's just upset. He's going to change his mind. But if she made the neder and he's not made for it, then in that situation she's yoitzav eating suba, because it's clear that he is very angry and he hates her. Rav Yosi Omer ba'aniyah shlonas and kitzba. So we said there's a distinction, going back to our Mishnah, when it comes to a person is madras isha shotis kashet be'echad mikol haminim. She can now adorn herself with a particular thing. Yoytzev didin ksuba. Rav Yosi Omer ba'aniyah shlonas and kitzba ba'shiras shloshim yoyim. So when it comes to someone who's rich, it's 30 days. But poor, it doesn't really say what it is. It says, and when it comes to someone, a poor person, shlonas and kitzba. It's only when there's not a time limit. So in this, Rabbi Yosef shlonas and kitzba. But kama kitzba, what is considered to be a time limit? That the din is different. So Rabbi Shmuel Yud Beis Chodesh, 12 months. Rabbi Chana Rabbi Yochanan Eser Shanim, 10 years. Rabbi Chisda Avimi Regel, one holiday, like one of Shosh Regalim, Shekain B'nai Sisum is Kashtais B'Regel, because that's how they would adorn themselves. And Bashiris is Lamed Yoim. For the wealthy, it's 30 days. Maishna Lamed Yoim. Amar Abai Shekain Isha Chashuva the Henes Mereach Kishutehu Lamed Yoim, because Isha Chashuva, she gets hana from these adornments within the 30-day span. So therefore, because of that, that's the time. So question 6. Amadar Ishto, the person made a neder against his wife. Shalotis kashit min haminim v'nosen kitzman. He gave us a set amount of time. Ad kama li kafin lo haitzi. So how long is the set time that we don't force for them to leave? So if they're poor, one says 12 months, one says 10 years, one says one regel, and a shiras is shloishim yoim, is 30 days. Next Mishnah. Hamadir as ishta shloi telech b'saviyah. A man says, not a good idea, to say you cannot go to your father's house. So it depends where her parents live. If let's say they live in the same city, which means she probably visits them often, 1 month it works, afterwards she gets her ksuba. Because they're in a different city, which is less frequently traveled, so regel echad yikayim shloisha yoitzi. So it says, interestingly enough, almost sounds like a steer about what's the din of 2. 1 regel, she stays. 3 already, that's too much, and she leaves v'yiting ksuba. Hamader is ishto shlo teil chabeis avel. A person makes a neder to his wife, I don't want you to go to a house of mourning. Ola beis hamishna, to a party. Yoitzi v'yiting ksuba. Now that means that she leaves immediately, because she's like, you're closing up a door in front of her. I was going to explain what that means. You're basically shutting her out from any social life. However, if we're going to see what this is, if he has some claim that there's a reason why he's saying this, then he's allowed to do it. On condition that I say to so and so, Mashia Mart Li, what you said to me, O Mashia Marti Locha, what I said to you, O Shete Mimala Umarab Ashva, is filled in the cave into a garbage heap. And this is all going to be explained in the Gemara what that means. Yoitim Yiding Suba. Hakufa Kasha. Amid Regel Echad Yikayim Hashnaim Yoitzi. So it says for 1 regel you should stay, but if it's 3, too much. Which is Mashma 2, maybe it means she should be Yoitzi Yiding Suba. So again, it says on one hand regel echad yikayim, which is mashma shnayim yoytzev yitin ksuba. Ema sefer shleish yoytzev yitin ksuba, mashma hashnayim yikayim. So it's a stira. So Amar Abaye reisha seifa atayin lekohenes. So one answer is that when it comes to a kohenes, we give extra time. So it's not a 1 and 2 month, but it's a 2 and 3 months. You have an extra not 1 and 2 regalim, but 2 and 3 regalim. Rabbi Yehudahi, as we said before, that we give the Kohen more time, especially because if he gets divorced, he will not be able to remarry her. That's answer number 1. Rabba Barul Oimer Lo Kasha Kan Berdufa Kan B'She'ena Redufa. So it all depends literally if you're redufa, says Rashi, if like redufa leilach beis aviha, tamid, if you're constantly going to your father's house, so shnayim yotzi shein redufa shnayim yikayim. If you're frequently go to your father's house, it's known that you always go to your parents' house, like all the regolim, even though they may live far away. So then in that situation, you only have one regel after once it's the second regel already, then she leaves. But if it's a family that you don't really go visit, you don't visit your parents so much anyway, so you have an extra regel. Then the pasuk says, "Oz hayisi be'enav kimaytis shalom." It'll be it'll be in your eyes finding peace. Rabbi Yochanan, kikala shenimse shlema beis chamia. It's like a bride who has found peace in her father-in-law's house. Redufa leilech lahagit shivcha bebeis avia. Says Rashi, shkvar nisei, she's married, v'gam liba babala, and her heart is with her husband. Ve'enu boisha himenu, is not afraid and not embarrassed of him. V'hoy b'yamahu nuam Hashem tikri ishi. And it'll be, they will say in the name of Hashem that I'll call to my husband, and I'll not call anymore to my master. That she's like the kal bebeis chamia, which basically again means that she has a relationship now that she's married with her husband. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see if maybe we can come across another question or two. Okay, we saw question 6. TA 25. Amadras ishto shlo titoim echa mikol paris yoytziv dein ksuba madu yoytzim yad lo tamtin kamastisam mad metashmish oy hanois. So the answer, as we saw, is that either because it was said stam, stam, and therefore there was no time frame, and therefore because that you leave right away, or we said benodreihi v'kayim law. It's where she made the neder, and then he verified it. So the fact is that since she made the neder, but he was the one who verified it, so the din is that in that situation we say that she's yotze v'yitin ksuba, but again there is a time limit, as opposed to a situation where, again, being totally, is it putting the finger in his mouth, or he's the one that caused the problem by keeping the neder, or is it her? Question TB27, which we just saw over here. Hamadras ishta shlotel chabeis avia regel echi kaim shlosh yoytzim mahadin mishnayim. So he said either Yisrael's yoytzim is yoytzim b'kahenes yikayim, or redufa yoytzim v'shein redufa yikayim adkan.